Hey crafters, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to make a Valentine's Day card inspired by the Owl and the Pussycat. Hope you enjoy! So I started with a piece of paper that's 5 by 7 inches, and I used a few different distress inks on the front of the card. So I started with Salvaged Patina, and I blended this along the bottom of the card. And I didn't worry about the very bottom because I knew that would be covered up with the wave later on. Now once I'm happy with the Salvaged Patina, I added some Salty Ocean and blended that above the Salvaged Patina. And I just went back and forth between these two colors to get a nice blend at the top here. And I wanted to have a sky that would be dark enough so that I could add some stars. So I gradually got darker towards the top of the card. And of course, I will need to have a moon as well so that it makes sense in terms of the Owl and the Pussycat. So I'm going to continue with that Salty Ocean over the top of the card. And then once I have a base of that color, I can add a darker blue on top around the edges there. So I'm just going to blend those two colors together one more time. And then I can darken the edges. So I chose Chip Sapphire for this, and I just ran around the top and the edges. And it is easier if you start on the craft mat and then gradually work onto the card. I was a little heavy-handed on the right side of the edge there, but don't worry if that happens because you can blend it back out just by adding some more ink and blending them together. And once I'm happy with that, I'll set it aside to dry and I can work on my waves. So using a piece of paper that's the same width of the card, I'm just tearing it in wave shapes. And I want there to be a rough edge at the top there. And I'm going to add some Distress Oxides over this, and it will emphasize that rough edge, as you'll see here. So I started with Mermaid Lagoon and added that on the top. And then once I'd blended that across, I went in with a darker blue underneath. This is Blueprint Sketch. And then I blended the two blues together. And then to add a little bit of texture on there, I'm just going to use that Blueprint Sketch and spray some water on it. And then I can sprinkle this over my wave area. So I'm just going to use a fan brush and just spray it across. And I'm also going to add some plain water as well, and that'll help add some interest to the waves as well. And I'll hold it up there so you can see the finished waves. And it's quite easy to see that rough edge now. It looks great in real life. Now the stamps for this card come from the S'more the Merrier set, and the little cat is from Purrfectly Wicked. For the boat, I used the jar from How You Been, and then some music notes from S'more the Merrier as well, and I stamped those in Distress Oxides. The moon is also from S'more the Merrier, as is the guitar. Now I colored the How You Been jar to make it look like a pea green boat. And I just cut a piece of paper to be the mast of the boat and colored this with my Copics. And I'm just trying to figure out where all the pieces fit. I also cut a smaller piece to be the steering mechanism on the boat, which the cat is holding on to. And the sail comes from a triangle that I cut from the Really Rainbow paper pad. So I'm just going to pull everything down a little bit on the card, and then I can glue it into place. So I attached all the pieces with some white glue, PVA glue, except for the waves, which you'll see in a moment. So I'm just going to put the cat and the owl into the boat before I push down on that How You Been boat. And then I can make sure that it is all in place. And I'm just going to tuck the guitar in the owl's hands. And then take the wave and add some foam squares to make it stand up on the back. And then I can cut the bottom off that jar, glue the moon in place, and then add on the waves. Now to make it look like the owl is playing the guitar, I'm going to add those music notes, but first I'll just trim off the bottom of that wave. And I'm just going to place the music notes where I want them to be, and then once I'm happy with them, I'll glue them into place. Now to add some stars, I'm going to use a Stardust gold pen and just start by adding dots, and then I can add a few larger stars as well. And this pen looks nice and bright in real life and adds a little touch of sparkle on the card. Just gorgeous. So I'm just going to add some letters from Oliver Stitched ABCs, and I used some Lawn Fawn holographic paper for this, and I just spelt out my love to go with the poem. And I'm just going to make sure it's level with my ruler and then let it dry. Now using a 5x7" card base, I'm going to line up the 2 heart background stencils. These are called the Lots of Hearts background stencil, and I overlapped them slightly so there'd be no gap between the left and the right side. Used some post-it note tape on the top of the card, and now I'm just blending the same 2 Distress Oxide colors over the top area. So I started with the Mermaid Lagoon, and then I added the blueprint sketch on the bottom. And I used a tiny piece of paper just to make sure that I wasn't ink blending over hearts that I didn't want to cover. Now for the inside sentiment of my card, I'm going to use one from the How You Been Conversation Heart add-on. I'll just remove this stencil first. And there's other sets that have the same sentiment, but this is the one that I have. It says Happy Valentine's Day. And then to tie it into the poem, from the Purrfectly Wicked set, I'm just going to stamp the little spoon, and I'll color that in with some of my Copics. I had a look through my Lawn Fawn collection, and I couldn't find anything that looked like mince, or quince for that matter, so I stuck with this spoon. So once that's dry, I'm going to glue the front onto my card, and I did end up trimming a little bit off of the edges of the 5x7" front panel, so there's a tiny little white border around the edge, which I thought helped to make it a bit more dramatic, and I was quite happy with the results. So you can see the inside of the card here, and the finished Owl the Pussycat Valentine's Day card. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video inspiring. If you haven't already, please subscribe so that you're notified whenever I post a new video. Have a crafty day!